It's the panel presented by Chek here in Nashville, Tennessee, with Bob Stauffer and Jack Michaels. Gentlemen, the trade deadline has come and gone. The Oilers, as assistant GM Keith Gretzky said, elects to stick to their guns and did not make a move today.
Well, and I think it's reflective of a team that still very much believes there's hope for the playoffs. I mean, currently they're 8 points out with a couple of games in hand. But when Bob and I were calling the game the other night, Edmonton, Anaheim, and the feel we've gotten from the respective brasses of those two organizations, even though Anaheim actually entered that game a point ahead of Edmonton, two decidedly different feels. One team thinking they were already out of it and looking to sell and move on, Anaheim, and one that believes it still has a chance, the Edmonton Oilers. Now, there are some intangibles that Bob will talk about that, precluded Edmonton from making a realistic deal. But I do believe, and I take Keith Gretzky at his word, the way the Oilers are playing, he feels like he can get this team back in the race, and they're playing well enough to do so. Sometimes on the tail end of a losing streak, you're playing some great hockey games and not getting the results. It also works in reverse. Well, the Oilers have gotten some results, and now they're starting to get a bit of luck. Ryan Getzlaf was unable to go for Anaheim the other night when Connor McDavid was suspended, and against Nashville, the Predators will be missing two of their top 7 forwards because of deals they made, sending Fiala and Hartman out. Their new acquisitions, Granlund and Simmons, not here. They're going to make Nashville a powerhouse, but not tonight. It's Edmonton's chance to start this road trip with a massive win.
Well, the Oilers, it's been an interesting year on the trade front, and it really started with the Ryan Strome deal for Ryan Spooner, which did not work out for Peter Chiarelli. But it does look as though Keith Gretzky has been able to salvage that deal a little bit by picking up Sam Gagner. And Sam's obviously, not that he needed to be humbled, but I get the sense that he's really appreciative of the opportunity he's gotten here at Edmonton. He's provided them with a guy that can legitimately play in their top 9 on a nightly basis. And I think that's a good thing. And then you take a look at, well, what could they have done? Could they have traded Zach Kassian? Sure, except since January 1st, Zach Kassian has been one of the Oilers' 4 best forwards. And has given the, and the other thing about Zach Kassian is he's a guy that can help you come playoff time. Gives you a different dimension. There were teams out there that would have wanted to make a move for Zach Kassian. Alex Chason, $650,000, brilliant pickup as it turned out for the Oilers, coming in on a PTO. Scored a bunch of goals early, 16 in the first 30 games. He's got 1 goal since. But he's played pretty well in stretches. He just hasn't scored. And the Oilers probably could have moved him for a later round pick. But why do that to your team if you think you do indeed have a chance to stay in the hunt? You also have to stay in games. And it's, you have to play it through to the end. And so I think that's, the easy thing would be, well, we'll give this guy away for a 6th round pick. Maybe you can make the argument, well, what about Petrovic? I mean, there were some interesting deals happen late in the day. I'm trying to figure out the one that Pittsburgh made with Vancouver because I don't get it. But at the end of the day here, the Oilers' situation really was what it was. And we knew that going in. I don't think anybody's that surprised that nothing happened today. I will say we've seen lots of occasions over the last 3 or 4 NHL trade deadlines where initial discussions occurred and then trades ultimately came to fruition closer to the NHL draft.
Quickly, Bob, you mentioned that the significant impact of Sam Gagner. Keith Gretzky said there was a few teams knocking on Chason's door. How does a day like this, NHL trade deadline day, kind of maybe resurface some talks again in the summer, and as Keith Gretzky alluded to, maybe alleviate some cap space during the summer?
Well, I mean, let's just say theoretically there was an Eastern Conference team out there right now. They could have moved a top 9 winger, okay? And maybe they could have moved that top 9 winger for a 3rd pairing defenseman. But maybe they elected not to do that because they want to see how their team plays out this year through the playoffs. And then they got to sign a guy, a higher profile guy with some more money. So the question is, at that point, does a $2 million forward that can play in the top 9 shake out? And does that same team need a 3rd pairing right shot defenseman? Those are the sort of conversations, without naming names, that maybe come to fruition as we get into June 24th, 25th, 26th.
The other thing, Tony, quite frankly, is, if you're talking about a 3rd, 4th, Bob, mentioned 5th, 6th round pick, these are guys that don't make the NHL. I mean, look at the percentages. Yeah. Even a 3rd round pick for Alex Chason, it's going to be to a playoff contender. So that pick would be theoretically between 82 and 90.
Yeah.
Look it up. It doesn't happen that often. And so, why trade an NHL roster player for a guy you hope might be an NHL roster player 5 years from now? Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. Not when you're still within striking distance. Again, the Western Conference is wide open enough that I think a lot of teams are willing to see if they can somehow sneak a way in. And once you're in the tournament, and hey, we're in Music City. Nashville was an 8th seed 2 years ago and came within 2 wins of a Stanley Cup championship. So once you get into the tournament, I think that's what a lot of teams and general managers are thinking about at this particular point in time.
The Oilers may not have made a move today, but they gun for their 3rd consecutive victory tonight in Nashville. Jack and Bob will have the call on 6:30. Chad, we'll have you covered right here on Oilers TV. This has been the panel presented by Sport Chek.